There we go. Good morning, good afternoon. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it may be when you all are tuning in to this broadcast. I am your international award winning author and filmmaker and empowerment specialist, Tennille M. Jackson. And I want to welcome you guys to another self care act. This is the Self Care Act, the show that talks to you all about loving yourself, loving others, and loving life. And so today, on today's show, I have posed a question, which is, what is the worst thing that has happened to you? And so I kind of want you all, if you feel comfortable with doing so, to feel free to start sharing the answer to that in the question. You don't have to go into the whole story of it, but just like in a blurb, in a few words or a sentence, what's the worst thing that's happened to you? And I'm not just asking for the sake of, right? But we want to just kind of walk through dealing with some of life's mishaps. And so as you guys come on, please feel free to observe our three rules of protocol. Number one is to say hello. That way I can speak back. So whether you are watching from Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and even listening from our Wisdom app, please feel free to speak so that way I can speak back. Number two, like and share the video, like and share. And then number three, tag somebody that you believe would benefit from the broadcast. And who would benefit from today's broadcast? In a nutshell, anyone who is dealing with hardships in their life, because life is hard, y'all. Life is always life. And the older that I get, the more that I come to realize that everybody does not know how to deal with the things that hit them, right? I think sometimes we are under the impression that everybody is like us, for better or for worse. I think we feel like that whatever circumstances we grew up in or grew up under, I think we believe that everybody grew up in that same type of situation where everybody is aware of how to handle certain things, or everybody just naturally knows how to deal with adversity. Everybody just knows how to confront issues in life. Everybody just knows how to handle death. And the fact of the matter is that that is just very far from true. And so today, I just want to kind of throw out there some things that you can do, especially being in the holiday season. It's a lot more difficult in the holiday seasons when you're having to deal with adversities, or even having to revisit some adversities that you may have had, right? And so, hey, Miss Ellen, thanks so much for tuning in. And so, that's so, like I say, one of the things that brought this topic to mind, on this Wednesday, I am going to be the guest of a friend of mine. Her name is Joyce A. Graham, and she does a grief recovery prayer line every third Wednesday of the month. And she has asked me to come on. She got wind of not just my song, but the video that I recently released for my song, Remembering. And she was like that she really felt that that would hit so many, because you'd be surprised how many people are grieving during the holiday season. And for me, it's not that I would be surprised. I'm one of those. I'm one of the people who have grieved during the holiday season. I've shared before, my grandmother died the day before Thanksgiving 20 years ago, and so that changed the trajectory of our family's holiday for years and years and years. When my mother passed away, my mother's birthday was December 6th. And so when she passed away, you're a couple weeks away from Christmas. So years and years. And so the point is that I know a thing or two about dealing with grief specifically, and as it pertains to the holidays. And so I want to kind of just be here. Hello, sir. Thank you so much for tuning in. I want to be here not just to focus on the negative part of it, right? Not just to do the glum, woe is me, or it's not even saying in a sarcastic way, because some of the times when is dealing hard things, when life is life, and that's the best way for me to put it. When life is life, and sometimes it is hard to be able to see beyond the storm. And so today is not just wanting the goal is not just for you to throw out every bad thing that's ever happened to you, right? Like, the point of today's show is to be able to, number one, get you to see that there is a beyond. Because sometimes when we get stuck in the storm, we are focused only from where we are, not where we can be, or not where we are trying to get to. Because I think that sometimes, and I think that it also depends on when and how the storm comes at us, right? So in other words, my belief is that if you are aware of the fact that a storm is coming, right? So you think about the news, and there are times when, if you watch the news, if you watch the weather report, that the newscaster, the weatherman, he will tell you, hey, on Tuesday or Wednesday night at 6:30, a tornado is going to be heading your way. On Thursday at 8 a.m., you're going to be struck by a hurricane, or earthquake is making its way. So, like, when you have received the news, when you have the ability to have gotten a heads up, so to speak, so you've been given the news to know a storm is coming. So whatever type of storm it may be, because although all storms may be different in nature, the fact that they are storms all the same can be devastating, right? So whether it be a tornado, whether it be a hurricane, whether it be an earthquake, whether it be a tsunami, if it hits you, it's going to have a devastating effect regardless of what the storm is. I need y'all to get where I'm going with this. Regardless of the type of storm that it is, if it hits you, you are going to be impacted by the storm. However, if you're given a warning, many times, hello, ma'am, thank you so much for joining Artasia. Many times we I don't think it's the fact that we are unaware that storms exist. I think that what messes us up is not being prepared. Being ill prepared for the storm is what really kind of gets us messed up, right? So if I was listening to the weatherman, and if the weatherman let me know, hey, this storm is coming, I'm going to be a little bit upset. I'm going to be a little bit frustrated. Why? Because I got to make some adjustments, because I don't like the fact that this storm is coming, and then you don't necessarily know, number one, you don't know how long it's going to last, and you don't know. So in terms of days, you don't know, is this just going to be a day or two, and then when it hits, you don't know the impact is going to be. Like, when you think about tornadoes, they have different levels of strength, right? So it could be like, I think it's like a F5 is the most horrific that it can be, right? So it's like, okay, so if a tornado, is one thing to know that a tornado is coming. Okay, that's fine. I live in Chicago. You hear about tornado or thunderstorm warnings, right? That's fine. But then when they say, okay, or tornado is coming in Cook County, oh, that's a little bit different. Why? Because I live in Cook County. Okay, but then if I know that a tornado is coming to Chicago, hold on. Now I'm a little bit more attentive. Why? Because Cook County is made up of 134 municipalities. So just to say Cook County ain't really, because it could miss me, because you got 111 villages, you got a town and 23 cities. So just because it's coming to Cook County, don't mean it's hitting me. But then if you say it's coming to Chicago, okay, you got my attention a little bit more. But then if you be even more specific to say it's coming to the south side of Chicago, because if you are a Chicagoan, most Chicagoans think of Chicago in four parts, right? Like north, south, east, and west. Even though the east side don't get a whole lot of love, but really you got the north side, west side, south side, east side. And then you have, I love those people who claim Chicago like they're a suburb of Chicago, but they go under that Chicagoland area umbrella, right? But the point is, so like I know, so these are different levels of life's happenings, right? So regardless of what your involvement is, you can be impacted. So it's one thing to say, all right, well, weatherman said tornado is coming. All right. So I know that it's coming, but I'm not necessarily, I'm not necessarily moved by it because tornadoes come all the time. Hold on. Weatherman said the tornado is coming to Cook County. So now I'm a little bit more, this could impact me because this is my county. But then the weatherman said it's coming to my specific city. All right, now you're doing too much because now it's my part of town. So now the likelihood that I'm going to be impacted by this storm has really just shot through the roof. All right, but that's okay because today is Monday. He said the storm is probably going to hit on Thursday. So let me go do everything that I need to do to prepare, right? So, regardless of the type of storm, again, so many different types of storms, y'all, whether it's a hurricane, whether it's a tornado, whether it's an earthquake, whether it's a tsunami, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be a flood, whatever it is. If it's Monday, he told you it's coming on Thursday, then most of us, what we're going to do, hey, Miss Trina, what most of us are going to do is we're going to do whatever, we're going to take whatever the necessary steps are as that precaution. So whether that means let me go and get my candles together, let me get some flashlights and batteries, let me move all of my stuff from the floor to upper level, so that way if the flooding happens that none of my stuff is destroyed, or let me prepare the lower level just in case the glass windows is gonna break. Let me prepare so that way I can be okay to sit in my basement for a while. Let me cover the windows so that way. So the point that I'm making is, when we are aware that a storm is going to come, regardless of the kind of storm it is, when you listen to the weatherman or you watch your timelines on social media, and in other words, some type of way you got the knowledge that the storm is coming, even though you might be flustered, frustrated because of the different types of adjustments you may have to make, something in you is still a little bit grateful because at least you knew in advance and that gave you time to prepare, right? But what happens when it is no weatherman? What happens if there is no timeline? What happens if and when, because we just being honest, like matter of fact, by show of hands or comments or whatever, how many of you have gotten hit by one of life's storms without any type of warning? There was no warning. There was no, nobody gave you a notification. You didn't understand. You didn't know to think. You was left unprepared. How many have had to deal with a storm that has just resulted simply because of life? Wasn't even a consequential thing, wasn't that you did something wrong or you did something bad, because even when those things happen, even when we be done made bad choices, many of us, whether we say it out loud, we know that you reap what you sow, regardless of whether you say it like that or you say what goes around comes around, you get what you put out, whatever is the way that you put it out. Many of us understand that principle. Many of us understand that if I did something bad, then I can expect that something bad is going to come back. But what happens when I didn't do nothing wrong. This wasn't something that I knew to look for. Nobody prepared me for it. But guess what? I still have to deal with it all the same. And even though it took me 15 minutes to make that point, that's what I want to talk about today. That's what I really want to encourage to the people who are having to deal with the fact that life is life, and to encourage you to know that the same way that you can get through the storm that you were prepared for might mean that you got to make some adjustments, might mean that you got to be inconvenienced for a little bit, but the same way that you are able to push through and power through the storm that you were aware was coming. That is the same stick to itiveness. That is the same faith. That's the same thing that you have to do and use in order to get through these life storms, storms that's called unemployment, storms of eviction, storms of divorce, storms of death. All of these different, you don't know what storm you're going to get hit by, right? And maybe the weatherman didn't come on, or maybe you got the warning was there, but maybe you just didn't turn on the TV. Maybe this was the day that you wasn't on the timeline, you didn't watch the news, but it don't mean that the announcement wasn't there. Like, it's going to be a warning when we deal with, like, a lot of us, what happens, hello Miss Johnson, a lot of us, what happens is this. Say if, again, let's go with the being prepared. So, say if you have a loved one that is going to pass away, and you kind of know, right? So, I talked about my mother earlier in this, so I'll bring her back. My mother had cancer. Um, so we were told in October that the doctors were giving my mother maybe 6 months to live. Okay. Um, yeah, yeah. Miss Ellen says, or your gift makes room for you, but you didn't prepare for your business to start that day. It was all talk at first, but you didn't prepare. So that's what we finna talk about, that being ill prepared, right? So, but before we get there, let's because I gave y'all just, actual storm, like metaphorical storms that we talking about, different types of storms. Now I want to kind of bring it back in a little bit more. So, like, again, my mother had cancer. She was diagnosed in October. When she was diagnosed in October, it was already stage 4. So in October, we got the news that she had maybe 6 months to live. Now, my mother actually went on, they were thinking they were giving her maybe till April. My mother went on and she didn't pass until August the 18th. But the point is, most people, if you've dealt with anyone with a terminal disease, most of the time, even if it's just a little while, you're given some type of heads up that the person is going to have X amount of time on this earth. They got about another 3 months, another 6 months. So start getting your stuff in order. So even though you're hurt, technically speaking, your spirit man can start to kind of grieve, if you will, in a way, because okay, this is finna happen. So you can start mentally and emotionally preparing for what's about to come. It's hard, but but you still kind of know, whether you decide to accept it or not, you've still been prepared, right? But what happens when you don't even have that? What happens when, you've been doing everything right at your job, but then you still are one of the ones to receive a pink slip? You done came every day, was on time every day, never missed a day, didn't take your vacation days when you could have. And when they go to lay people off, you still are one of the ones with a pink slip. You didn't even know that talk of layoffs was happening, but you end up being affected by it. What do you do? What happens when you didn't even know a person was sick, but then the next announcement that you get is that they're gone? What do? You raise your kids right, but the next thing you are getting is a phone call to say that they've been arrested. What do you do? So the point that I'm trying to hit home to you guys is that you gotta always You have to always be prepared. Or we would say expect the unexpected. You can never be in a place where you think that you're so prepared that nothing bad will ever happen. You will never be that prepared, because the very thing that you don't think would ever happen is the exact thing that could happen. So what can you do? How can I then be prepared if there are things that can happen to me that I technically don't even know to prepare for? It's going to lie in making sure, number one, that you are spiritually as mature and strong as you can possibly be. Number two, mentally as strong as you can possibly be. Because I'm going to tell you this: life is life and for everybody. It is no respecter of persons. Life is not just life and for poor people and rich people are exempt. Life don't just life for black people and white people are exempt. Life is not just life and for one class or one gender or one race. Life is life and for everybody. Okay. So the way that you're able to love yourself through it, because again, for those of you who are just now tuning in, you're tuning into the Self Care Act, the podcast that talks about all about loving yourself, loving others, and loving life, right? And so today I want to talk about how do you love life beyond life's mishaps, right? Because here's the thing: so many people, when life starts life, and that's when you want to give up. That's the exact wrong thing to do. When life starts life, and this is really what shows you what you are made of, right? We all have different backgrounds. Some people grew up in a two-parent home, some people a single parent home, some people grew up in the orphanage, some people raised themselves, grew with their grandparents. So what was instilled in us is all different. You could have two people that grew up in two-parent homes. One could have been functional, one could have been dysfunctional. One could have been highly, the mom was the one who drove the principals and stuff, and another one the dad. So like, no matter what your home life looked like, it's all going to really be moot, because it's not like there's a magic formula. It isn't like, okay, well, if you come from this particular home or this particular background, or if you have this particular amount of money. No, it's all inside of you, right? How much do I believe that I can last? How much do I desire to last? How much gumption do I actually have, right? Like, even if life stars life in, even when the death hits my door, when depression hits my door, like, am I going to make it through this? And that's something that only you can answer. I admire people who say that they have never been depressed before. Well, baby, I can't really talk to you because that's not my testimony. I was stricken by depression before for many years, long time, clinically depressed, had to go through all of that, had to have a therapist, a counselor, all of that, because life was happening to me hard. It was happening to me fast. Every time you turned around, it happened at a very young age. Every year, somebody was dying, and it was taking it out of me. It was taking a toll on me. And there are times when the only way, how I told y'all earlier, that the way that it helps you to cope through life is if you got that weatherman that kind of prepares you. Some people, because there are some people who don't believe in counseling, so maybe for the people that don't believe in counseling therapy, maybe it ain't you. But some people, you benefit by being able to have somebody to talk to through your storms, while you're in the storms, right? Because it's like there are certain things that you go through in life that people actually can't help you out of. Certain things you just have to get through it on your own. Because yeah, it's easy to, I don't want to say easy, but it's better when you go through the stuff that, yeah, I can just get a helping hand. So all I gotta do is get somebody that can help me pull me out of it. But there are certain things that nobody can pull you out of. Like, you just have to ride that wave until it's over. But I want for you to understand that it will be over. Yes, it's true. Maybe you done been in the storm for a minute. It's true. then maybe you don't know how long the storm is going to last. But you do have to understand that it is not going to last always. Life is cyclical and it's seasonal. So that's how come it is so important in the times that you're going through where there are no storms. That's when you start eating up the word. That's when you start eating up the empowerment, the inspiration, the self-help. You start building yourself up so that way you can say, you know what? I know that the storm is coming. I don't know what the storm is going to be, but Lord, please help me to be able to keep my mind. Please help me to be able to keep my peace. Please help me to be able to keep my joy. Because let me tell you, if you understand the fact that things are temporary, so that you're not going to build your hope, you're not going to build your personhood off of a thing. Like, do not feel like, hey, Miss Sonia, like, don't feel like, oh, well, my life is everything because I have this house. House is great, but guess what? Any given storm can knock a house over, even if it's made out of bricks. It can knock a house over. It can destroy a house. It can destroy a thing. But will you still be okay? If you lost your home, would you still, or I'm sorry, if you lost your house, would you still have a home? You understand what I'm trying to say? When you understand the foundational things, then when stuff happens, trust me when I say, I'm not saying that that makes it easy, because this show, I don't care how long I'm live, I don't have enough time to tell y'all all the hardships that I have been dealt, okay? All the ways that life been life in my life. And I don't mean this year, because this is probably one of the best years in terms of the way that I have been able to handle life's happenings, right? And I think it's really because I learned, I got it. I got the solution. Like, it lies in maintaining your peace, because you cannot, no matter how much you stress over the storm, it doesn't change the fact that the storm is coming your way. So your storm could be dealing with a disease, a illness, whether it be terminal or curable. It could be something going on in your relationship, with your children, with your finances. Like, there's so many different storms that life is going to give you. And one of a person that I know, hey Scott, a person that I know said it best. It was morbid, but they said it best. The best way to ensure that you will never get hit by another storm is to die. That's the only way. That's the only way. And nobody is trying to get out of here, because tomorrow will be better. You have to be able to dig down and believe it. And if anybody that's on this podcast, whether you're watching it live, you're watching on a replay, if you are older than 2 days old, that means that you have lived long enough to get hit by a storm. And you can testify that at the moment when you were in that storm, you may not have known, it didn't seem like that the storm was going to be over. You didn't know how you were going to make it through. But what did you do? You just kept on going. Every day you put one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. And before you know it, that storm, that particular storm, is over. That doesn't mean that you'll never get hit by another one. And that's the other thing that I want to talk about. Not just being ill prepared, but having unrealistic expectations. Ellen said there are lessons in the storm maturity. Yeah, yeah. Help others where you know why and what to do when life happens to others, or life happens to help others. So, absolutely, like, when you go through, and that's one of the reasons why I do the types of podcasts that I do, is to encourage people. Because, like I tell y'all all the time, my belief is not that we are independent, but that we are interdependent. To understand the fact that when I go through something, it's not just so that I can go through it. When I get through it, when I grow through it, the whole point is to come on back and give back. Because 9 times out of 10, if it happened to me, that means it's happening to somebody else or it will happen to somebody else. So it's not for me to hold on to this experience and, well, if I stumble through it, if I struggle through it, then they got to figure it out too. No, you give back as you can. Now, whether or not somebody heeds to your warning, whether they listen to your advice, that's something different. I'm not talking about unsolicited opinion, right? I'm not going to a particular person's page and saying, hey, listen to me. No, I am just freely giving this information. And my belief is whoever it is that needs this inspiration, whoever it is that needs what I offer, and I typically am, I educate and I empower a lot of different ways, but at the end of the day, at the root of it all, I educate and I empower. And my belief is that whoever is supposed to hit will get it, right? But I'm never going to not share because somebody needs to hear it. Even if it's just one person, somebody needs to hear it. Somebody will be helped by it. And that's what we have to understand. A lot of times we don't want to share things, whether it's because we don't feel like we have the authority to, I don't have this particular title, or I don't have this amount of people following me. So therefore, I don't have the right to. But anything you've overcome, that then makes you, that gives you the right to share it with somebody else. Look, it don't mean that you, because a lot of people say, well, I didn't really go through it right. Who who know what right is? If you're still standing, that's right enough. Let me just be real with you real quick. And I'm coming to the end of this, y'all, but let me just be real with you real quick. The fact of the matter is, everybody don't get through it the quote unquote right way. You're gonna have some people, like I did. How did I get through depression? First of all, let's start with how I got to depression. You understand what I'm saying? So obviously, when life was life and I wasn't dealing with it right, because if I was dealing with it right, I would not have found my way into the land of depression. So I'm not glorifying depression. However, I understand the different things that can come along with life. So most of the time, I'm able to see depression all over people. And those are the people that I'm going to try to talk to, tell you, look, I done been where you are. Most of the time, I probably done been in your situation because I know a thing or two about a thing or two. But even if I haven't been in your situation, watch this. I can at least lend you a non-judgmental ear, because that's the other issue that we have. Like, if you've been through something and you're not willing to share it, it's it's very disheartening when I hear people say, "Well, I don't know what's wrong with people," especially people in the church that'll say, they try to question your faith if they know that you ever struggle with depression day in your life, because now they want to know, do you really love Jesus, or what's wrong with you? And if you can't identify, just because you don't understand it does not make it be that it doesn't exist. Just because it's not something that you would do, it's not the way that you would handle it, you are not the end all be all. And I don't care who the you is. If your name ain't Jesus, then you are not the end all be all for how to handle a situation. So sometimes you end up stumbling into greatness, right? Sometimes you end up stumbling into a solution, but you have to be here in order to stumble. So the first thing that I want to do is just to encourage you all. Like, I don't care what your storm is, because this is what I was saying before. I said, first of all, one of the reasons why when we go through is because we're ill prepared. The other thing is because we have unrealistic expectations. So let me touch on this real quick and then I will wrap it up. So ill prepared is you wasn't ready. You didn't know that the storm was coming, right? But then it's also almost just as bad to have an unrealistic expectation, thinking that, oh, well, because I went through this one storm this one time back in 1982, I remember having a storm. Baby, if you don't believe that you're gonna get hit with multiple storms in your life, then you gonna be messed up, because they gonna keep on hitting you and you ain't gonna know what to do. The reality is, many people, whenever if you have extended bouts of peace, you thank God for that, because that is not the average person. Most people get hit by some type of storm, right? Remember when I was telling y'all about that tornado and how the tornado have different levels of velocity or whatever? You can have F1, F2, F3, F4, F5. So you might just got hit by, so maybe people in your department was laid off, but it wasn't you. So that was like a F1. It scares you a little bit because it could have been you, but it wasn't you. Or maybe you got hit by what you thought was an F5, but turned out being an F3, meaning you got laid off, but you got set up with another job. So you didn't really get to feel the pain that came with unemployment, right? So either they set you up with a great benefits package so that way your money it wasn't going to be no holes or no dips in your money, no changes in your money, or they said, okay, we ain't going to be able to employ you, but we got somebody else that is. So you didn't really have to feel it. So it seemed like the news itself to be unemployed, we laying you off. That's like a F5, right? When you ain't got nothing, you wasn't prepared. So that's an F5. But then not really if they saying, oh, but we got a backup plan for you. Because you didn't really have to be impacted by the storm, right? So that's a seemingly F5. But my point is this: if you really, really feel like that because you got hit with one storm one time, that's all that's ever gonna happen to you in your life, you are in just as much trouble as the person who is ill prepared, because that then means your unrealistic expectation is going to lead you to be ill prepared for future situations. Because understand that as long as you are living, life is going to be lifing. Can I say that again? As long as you are living, life is going to be lifing. There may be certain days, weeks, months, and even years where you don't experience some type of tragedy, right? And if you are a person who can go years without experiencing a tragedy, count yourself extremely blessed. Extremely blessed. But the average person, the reality is that in a given year, the average person is going to get hit with like at least 3 to 4 F5s. You understand what I'm saying? Do you know how harmful, how impactful a F5 tornado is? Tears your house up. There are no remains. Your house is not still standing. Preferably, you had insurance so that way you are not just left homeless, okay? Because there is no repair for a F5 unless you had insurance. Ain't that what I just said? If you had insurance. So that is how you want to live your life. Understanding I'm going to get hit. So have realistic expectations. So that way, when that storm hits, and again, I don't care if it's a tornado, a hurricane, an earthquake, a tsunami, a flood, I don't care what the storm is, aka whether it's depression, eviction, death, divorce, kids being in jail, doing you wrong, some type of disease, life is going to hit you. And I know that is not like a little cheerful holiday message, is it? Right? But here's the holiday part. Here's the cheerful part. If you go in understanding that, then so if you have the realistic expectations to understand that's not about how cute you are, ain't about how much money you got, how rich you are, how many connections you have, how big your following is. None of that is going to save you from lifing. Because as long as you are living, life is going to be lifing. And most of the time with life, you expect the unexpected. Because just when you are least expecting it, that's when it happens. So that's how come you're always ready, right? So, number one, how do I deal with life's mishaps? Is that I have realistic expectations. Don't feel like it's something about you that's so wonderful that it's going to exempt you from what happens to everybody else. Death don't just have one somebody's last name on it, okay? So whether it's you or somebody you know, you are going to become acquainted with death. Point blank and period. Don't feel like, well, because my last name is this, that I may never get sick. Whether it's you or somebody, these are just statistics. This is just what it is. I'm not the bearer of bad news, but I'm just trying to be the one to let you know. So if you have realistic expectations, right? When I was told that my mother had 6 months to live, so within myself, did I want to accept it? No. Was I praying every day? Was I fasting? Was I reading God's word? Was I doing all of that? Absolutely. Because I wanted to believe that there was something that I could do that could change the storm. And sometimes in life, the things that you do can change the course of the storm. It can change whether or not the storm actually hits you. It can change how long the storm actually lasts. But then there are some things that no matter what you do, it has nothing to do with you. It's just the nature of the beast. So if you understand that, then that goes to point two, which is what I made at first. You will always be prepared. So whether that means let me be prepared spiritually, Lord, I'm going to trust you no matter what it is that comes in my life. I'm going to trust you. If things get taken away from me, Lord giveth and Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. So if I had a job and I don't have a job, God, I'm going to trust you because you are Jehovah Jireh. You are the Lord who provides, right? So you're just allowing me to be a vessel to get the provision for myself, but ultimately you are the one who's making the way. So when it's a matter of things, what can you do? Make sure that they're insured. Don't be out here driving around without car insurance and then you have nerve to get upset if your car get hit. Well, if you had insurance, then that storm, it wouldn't have been an F5. It only would have been an F3. Because yeah, it would have hurt, had to make adjustments, but because you had a expectation, if I'm out here driving, it's a chance I could get hit. That then led me to be prepared so that when it did actually happen, then I'm not messed up. You see what I'm trying to say? So either, so spiritually, you want to try to be girded up and prepared. Mentally, you want to be able to know that you are susceptible to any of the things that can happen. But what can I do to reduce the risk? Right? What can I do to reduce the risk? And so that's why I say certain storms, it's nothing that you can do. And that's just a hard truth. But there's nothing you can do naturally. Let me say it like that. There's nothing you can do naturally. But spiritually, what you can do is again gird yourself up. What you can do is constantly build who you are inside, build up your sense of peace, learn how to have peace. And can I tell y'all, unfortunately, you don't just get to have peace. How you know you have peace is in the time of the storm. When everything is going good, you don't have a need to exude peace because everything is going good. But it's when everything is going bad that you're able to tell whether or not you have peace. But anyway, guys, I hope that that has really helped. Ellen says, so true. Prepared people know that the storms are a different grade and adjustment. So they know that there are storms and that the storms are different grades and adjustments and so that means you are just going to be prepared, right? Hey, Terry. So that's what I'm hoping. You love yourself enough to prepare yourself mentally, prepare yourself mentally, prepare yourself physically, prepare yourself financially, and most of all, prepare yourself spiritually. Love yourself enough to be prepared. Don't allow life, because life, what I say earlier, as long as you are living, life is gonna be life. And so prepare yourself enough to so that you can hold on, right? Like get connected. So when I was talking about that weatherman, whether the weatherman is Jesus, whether the weatherman is a pastor, there is somebody that's preaching, there is somebody that's teaching, there's somebody that's telling you what's to come. But you got to be tapped in and tuned in so that you can know it and not miss the notification, right? So y'all, I love you all so much, and I want you guys, look, we are literally 2 weeks from today, we will be in a new year. Unfortunately, somebody won't cross over. And I pray that that's none of you all. I'm not speaking death to anybody, but again, that's just hard fact. Somebody won't make it, but I pray that you do make it, and that when you do make it, that things will be better for you on the other side. Don't take 2024, do not take it just the way that you did 2023. I don't care how great this year was for you. Make it your personal desire, your plan. What am I going to do to make sure that 2024 is even better? How do you start with that? First thing on my list is let me be prepared. I want to be prepared. So anyway, y'all, that is the show for today. I'm gonna put it in the post, but I'm gonna let y'all who tuned in know I meant to announce this last week. Y'all remember when I said I had a big announcement to announce, and then life was life, and so I didn't go live. But I have again made the ballot. So I will be MWRD. Well, it's up to the people in Cook County, but I will be on the ballot come November 5th, 2024 as an MWRD commissioner candidate. And this is something that I ran for last year. You guys, I had no clue what I was doing. I was just running on behalf of the Green Party. But there are a lot of things that I learned from that experience, and I'm so excited, honestly, to do it, because I would say this, this was not something that I planned. Yeah, I can say that. It's not something that I planned. This was something that I actually asked God to show me a sign if this was what He wanted. And the way that everything lined up, it is undeniable that the race is meant for me to be here. So whether it's meant for me to be here so that I win, or it's meant for me to be here because there's going to be somebody that needs me, and they need to encounter me, or I need them and I need to encounter them on this journey, it is undeniable that there is a reason why I must run this race. And so I am very much excited. Thank you so much, Ellen. And so I'll be taking off these next couple weeks. Well, this week I'll go live all this week, but the week of Christmas and week of New Year, I will be on hiatus. Many of you know, for my household, birthday season is October, November, December, and January. My last daughter's birthday, she is a New Year's baby, so I will not be going live. I will be with her in mommy mode, but I will be coming back on January 8th with an all new educated and empowered lineup. And so if you all would like to be guests on the show, always feel free to reach out. And as always, like, make sure that you guys, if you would like to be a sponsor of the show, make sure that you reach out and you let me know. Again, it is nothing to become a sponsor of the show. And that's relatively speaking, like the cost, it starts at just $100, guys. I have three different packages. Hey, Mama Joyce, I have three different packages. So whether you would like to do the $100, $250, or the $500 package, all of them have great perks that's attached. And again, I am going to leave the promo card for those of you who are watching this from a visual platform. I will end the show where you can see that. But if you would like to be a guest on any of the shows, we go live 5 days a week. Again, I'll be doing it this week on hiatus for the next 2 weeks, holiday hiatus, and I will be back all new at 2 on January 8th. And so we educate and empower you personally with the Self-Care Act show, professionally with aspects of entrepreneurship, politically with It's Not Politics, It's Principles, socially with Inspirational Talk with Tennille, and then spiritually with Get in Alignment with Your Assignment. And so again, regardless as to what type of business, brand, product, or service you have, you would definitely benefit from being a sponsor. But I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. And again, do not forget to join me on tomorrow night. Well, tomorrow will be live with our regular one. But then if you are a wife or you're interested in marriage, Wife and Wisdom will be having our in-person meetup. So hit me up if you're interested in more information about that. And then on Wednesday, I will be a guest. Mama Joyce is on the podcast now, and I will be the guest speaker, one of them, for her grief recovery prayer line. And so the information for all of that is on my wall. But I want to thank you all again so much for tuning in. I hope that this has helped to educate and or empower somebody. To all of you who tuned in, whether you tuned in from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or even listened on Wisdom. Thank you all so much. And I ask that if you haven't already done so, that you please find and follow me at My Name is Tennille. That's across every social media platform, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, formerly known as Twitter, Wisdom. No matter where you go, TikTok, you can find and follow me at My Name is Tennille. But thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next time, you all stay inspired.